Hello class. Today we're going to be talking about finding missing measurements in similar figures. And the way that we'll do this is in a three-step process. We will be sure that the shapes are well organized, which means that they're facing the same direction, they're rotated correctly so they look the same. We're going to find the scale factor, and from there we're going to use that scale factor to find the missing side. So we're going to go through a first example. You may recognize this from our scavenger hunt. You'll see that we have two right triangles. They're similar to one another, but we have a missing side. Now what you notice is there are a lot of numbers floating around here. We have our 24 and our 12. These correspond with one another. That's the height of our triangles. We also have our 24 and our 48 here. That's this slanted side. It's also called the hypotenuse of the triangle. And we have our base of the triangle, which is 18 on the smaller triangle, but we don't know the value of our missing side here. So that's what we will be looking for. So I noticed on the assessment that some of you, when you were presented with problems that had lots of different numbers representing different values, you got a little bit confused about which corresponding sides were correct. So I'm going to tell you now that I'm going to highlight this 24 in blue and this 12 in blue. And what this means is that these two sides correspond with one another. So I can use this to find the scale factor, and I'm going to have to go find my scale factor going up. Because eventually I want to figure out what do I multiply 18 by to find my missing side. I can also use 24 and 48 because those correspond as well. And if I multiply this direction, I need to know the scale factor, which is going to be the same scale factor as this. I want to know the scale factor that will help me multiply 24 by that scale factor in order to get 48. So I'm going to show you both ways in this example. I can use my equation that we've been taught before, which is 12 times my scale factor, because we're multiplying it by a certain scale factor that we're going to find right now, is equal to 24. Now I can solve for my variable. I'm going to divide both sides by 12. So 12 divided by 12 gives me 1, which cancels out. I also get 24 divided by 12 because what I do to one side, I do to the other. And 24 divided by 12 will give me 2. So I know my scale factor is 2. You could have also used the 24 and 48. You'll see that this works out as well. So I can do 24, and I'm using this 24, not this one, times a scale factor that we don't know yet is equal to 48. I'm going to solve on both sides for 24, divide both sides by 24 to solve for that scale factor. And here I also get that my scale factor is 2. Now, I only need one of these. I didn't have to show you both of them, but I want to emphasize that if you have a lot of numbers floating around, you only really need to use two numbers that correspond with one another. You have to make sure they correspond, or you will not get the correct scale factor. So now that I know this, I'm going to use this scale factor, and I'm going to multiply my side that corresponds with my x by that scale factor. I'm going to multiply this by 2. So I know that my scale factor 2 times 18, and I can double check over here, but 2 times 18 will give me 36. So I know that my missing side here, that x is equal to 36. In our next example, we will have to rotate our figures a little bit because if you know from our first step, we have to be sure that our shapes are organized well. So here you'll see that we have two parallelograms, and I'm going to redraw this one. You'll see that I have a missing side x, and I have 36. I also have this smaller figure right here, and I'm going to redraw this so that it looks the same. I will make it a little bit smaller though. So it's a little bit smaller. And you'll notice if I rotate this, my bottom side will be 24 units. And this slanted side, not my height, but my slanted side of my parallelogram will be 16. Now, step 2, I'm going to find the scale factor. I'm going to have to scale up because my missing value is on my larger figure. So I know that 24 times, and again, this 24 corresponds with this 36. That's why we rotated it here. 24 times s equals 36. I want to solve for s, so I'm going to divide both sides by 24. And here I can check for my scale factor. I have 36 divided by 24 being equal to 1.5. So my scale factor is 1.5. I'm going to use the scale factor to find my missing side. So I know that my 16 corresponds with my x. They're both on the same side of similar figures. So I'm going to say that my scale factor and my missing side 16 times my scale factor of 1.5. So if I multiply this by 16, so I'm going to have 1.5 times 16, that'll give you my missing side, and that's 24 units. So I know that my missing side is equal to 24 units. Now lastly, we have a shape where if we rotate it, it's never going to quite look exactly the same. But what I can do is flip it when I redraw it. So I notice that my bottom portion right here is my missing side x, and my length right here is 22. Now when I redraw this, and again the drawing doesn't have to be perfect, but it should include the values. I'm going to redraw my smarter triangle. I'm going to do it over here on this side. And I have this being 11 units and 6.5 units for my base. I also have my larger triangle. My bottom is x because I don't know what that is. And my value over here, the height, is 22 units. I want to find the scale factor here going up. And that's only because my x is missing on my larger side. If it was missing on the shorter side, I would have to divide, or I would have to find my scale factor going down. So my scale factor would be less than 1 in this case. But in this specific example, my scale factor is going to go up. And you'll see that 11 times my scale factor equals 22. I divide both sides by 11 to solve for s. I'm going to get that my scale factor is equal to 2. I use that scale factor on my base because that corresponds with my missing value. And I know that 6.5 times 2, which was my scale factor, equals 13 units. If you have any more questions or comments, please let me know, and I'll be glad to help you throughout class. Thank you.